purpose of this workshop is to give you a clearer idea about the annex, since you will be dealing a lot with it in the future, and it's going to give you a chance to raise any inquiries you might have. And as you know, TDRA is responsible for supporting the infrastructure strategies and drive the smart transformation processes for the government of UAE and the federal government entities through implementing multiple digital government plans and strategies. As well as TDRA is committed to reinforce all sectors and driving them towards the knowledge-based economy and raising their digital awareness, in addition to encouraging them for a purposeful use of technology and digitalization. But before we start off, I would like to ask all of you to keep any questions you have towards the end of the session, so the rest of the team can answer you. All right. As you know, we are responsible for supporting the infrastructure and strategies that drive the effective transformation in the UAE and the government entities by implementing multiple digital enablers. I think most of you have dealt with these digital enablers, and you will learn more about them in this session. So TDRA has spearheaded the development of the national plan and the implementation of more than 12 critical initiatives referred to here as the digital enablers, which lead towards the goal of the UAE for a smart government. So as I mentioned, the purpose of this document is to give a clear outline of the digital government enablers provided by TDRA and to ensure that the vendors' alignment in the project's design and execution to include the digital government enablers and know about their infrastructure, authentication, and other services that are related to the project. So the digital government enablers include multiple components across different enterprises, and their infrastructure and overview, everything will be listed in this document. And the most important part is that this annex is going to be applied for all the federal government entities, and any RFP that will be issued will have this annex attached to it if it's related to the enablers. Okay, now we can move on. Here we have the table of content. I'll just give you a quick brief. We have categorized the enablers into 4 different categories, and each category has the list of enablers listed under them. And each enabler will have its own section with an overview and an illustrative graph that speaks about the technical architecture of the enabler itself. So for example, if I can go to the government service bus, you can see the overview over here. And then you can have the illustrative graph about the technical architecture of the enabler itself. Next, we can move on to the requirements, but as we go through, you can see that each enabler is listed with its own overview and architecture. So the digital government enablers requirements. This part is important because here we listed all the enablers and the requirements for the vendors with the details. If the bidder has, if the bidder wanted to implement these enablers as part of their projects or solutions. So if a bidder wants to apply the FedNet in their projects, for example, they will have to see the requirements listed in this section, and the vendor will also have to deal with these requirements. So both parties will be responsible for this. And for the final part of this workshop, the annex is going to have a QR code at the bottom, as you can see here. So this QR code will allow you to quickly and easily access the latest versions of the annex because it's going to be constantly updated even throughout the years. You can easily access it with this QR code, so it's going to be simpler for everyone. And an important point is the point of contact. So if any of you wants to apply the digital enabler in one of the solutions, you will want to know more details about the specific enablers. So at this part, we would recommend that the vendor will require to contact the entity itself that issued the RFP, so that the entity will contact the enabler owner. This is because you might have questions about several enablers, so the entity will be a one point of contact between the vendor and the enabler owner, so it will decrease any dependencies in communications. And to conclude, this annex will ensure that any federal government entity that wants to implement a similar solution to one of the enablers will have to use the enablers available instead of buying or creating additional solutions, which results in saving time, money, and effort by reducing the chances of doing double the work of implementing a similar solution.